bleeding. For real? I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding.
Ooh, that took a nice chunk.
I am literally bleeding. I gotta tell you guys a little something. I have been officially, well, not me, my husband, but I guess it was a threat meant for me. We've been officially threatened now by one of my family members that I'm gonna be sued. But I'm like, sis, do you think I didn't look into the legalities? One of the biggest problems while this was all going on in my life was that my family severely underestimated my intelligence. All right, anyway, in the last video, I told you guys a little bit about what happened on Thanksgiving. That was fun. I gotta tell you, I have not spoken to anyone in my mom's family for almost a year now, except my one cousin. That's it. I don't talk to anybody else. I don't talk to her sisters. I don't talk to her brothers. Not necessarily that I have issues with them. I didn't want to burden other people with my problems. I just made a conscious decision to kind of step back and heal, because you cannot get better in the same environment that you got sick in. Of all the people in my mom's family, the person I am most disappointed with is my Aunt Debbie. And the reason being is because she was very close with my mom, and I thought I had a good relationship with her. Oh, I didn't know what gaslighting was years ago. I never even heard the term. When I had finally heard the term and what it meant, it finally clicked. That's when it clicked in my head. When you tell somebody that they need help and they're mentally disturbed for having an emotional reaction to something that they very rightfully so should have an emotional reaction to, that is gaslighting. Look what I was going through. Of course I was emotional and having reactions. I have every right. Even at that time, I still had a little bit of that guilt. But where I am now, after dealing with therapists and grief counselors and, writing and just ways that I dealt with and kind of grew from this experience, I really am confident in myself. And that's not being, egotistical or narcissistic or whatever you want to say. I am confident in myself because I know who I am. Nobody's going to paint the picture. I'm going to paint the picture. I'm the artist, okay? So I am going to paint my own portrait. For 2 years after my mom died, I did not talk to anybody about this shit. I talked to my one cousin and I talked to my husband, obviously, but I didn't really talk to anybody in my mom's family about this because nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody wanted to be involved. Nobody wanted to hear it. They didn't want to deal with it. And they made that pretty clear to me. And so I kind of just stepped back and focused on my healing. If anybody here has ever been gaslit, you know what it feels like. You know what it does to you internally, where you really start questioning your sanity. You start feeling like you're crazy. Maybe there is something wrong with me. I really did start to question my sanity as I was going through this. Gaslighting affects you mentally. It mentally destroys you. And I had to get away from these people for my own sanity. For years, I was gaslit. My mom was gaslit. I was gaslit. Being told that I'm wrong, I'm paranoid, I'm too sensitive, whatever. Hey, it is completely normal to set boundaries with people and enforce those boundaries. And I'm sorry if you're getting angry that I'm enforcing my boundaries. I did not realize how unhealthy and how toxic this whole situation was. It took writing and therapy and reading and watching videos on YouTube, like talking to other people, sharing stories, sharing experiences. It took all of that for me to finally realize, like, of course I'm going to be emotionally affected. Look what I've been through. But it's okay. I'm not crazy for having feelings. And I made that clear to my aunt, and I think she was getting more angry with me, and to this day is very angry with me because I am confident with myself. I just had to get that out. Okay, so let's get back into the story. I woke up the next morning and my mind was just blown. I just couldn't, I cannot believe the way my aunt spoke to me 4 days after my mom died. Telling me I ruined her life and I did this and I did that. I did not ruin my mom's life. And I am so confident in that. I think for the last 3 years of her life, I was pretty much the only thing that brought her joy. You know, me, my son, my husband, our relationship. And my mom was so grateful for me, and she told me all the time. So I wake up the next morning and it's Black Friday, okay? And I'm just like, wow, I can't believe what happened last night with my aunt. I'm in shock. Normally, it's Black Friday, people are out shopping. I thought of my mom because when she used to work in Kmart, she always complained about Black Friday, you know. My husband gets a text from my brother. Here we go. Here we go. He writes my husband this text and it says, I've just met with an attorney. Leanna can either give me the original will she took that names Aunt Betty and Aunt Debbie as executrix today, or I'll be going to court on Monday to be named as administrator. I had no idea what the that meant. I really didn't. I had no idea what that meant. So I just want to explain this to you guys. There's two ways a person could die, okay? There's intestate and then there's testate. Okay. Part of the reason I wanted to make these videos when I first thought about this idea of making these videos and doing my blog and everything is because when I was going through this shit, there's information out there. You could find like information, legal information about wills and estates and probate and trusts and all this shit. But nobody shares their personal experience. I guess because it's kind of taboo. It's a sensitive subject. You know, people don't like to talk about it. It's personal. But reality is a lot of us have to deal with this in life. A lot of people go through this. You know, when you lose your parents, whether they're young or old or whatever, you have to settle the estate. And it's a really confusing process. And it's scary. That process in and of itself is kind of like another death. What I was trying to basically say here is that there's nowhere you could really go to ask people questions and learn from other people's experiences as they went through this, because each case is so unique. It really is. And it depends on how people are getting along with one another and that kind of thing. So there's not many resources out there except for, you know, talking to your own attorney. And so part of me doing this is to just share my experience and help other people through this process. If you go to file for administration, you're basically going down to the court and you're saying that you there's no will. The person died intestate, okay? They had no will. As long as they have, I think it's $30,000 in assets and above, you could apply to become an administrator of their estate. Essentially, all that is becoming an executor of their estate, even though there's no will. But my mom had a will, clearly. My husband and I realized, though, that the will we actually had was not the original copy. When they said I destroyed the will, I thought that's what my aunt meant. I thought my brother and his wife maybe told my aunt that I destroyed the original copy of the will. I was just so confused. I didn't really understand what any of this shit meant, right? I tell my husband, do not answer my brother. What makes him feel entitled to having my mom's will? Why do I have to hand it over to you? Who the f*** are you? What gives you any more right than me to have it? Yeah, and especially because, yes, I'm sorry, my brother didn't want to handle my mom's sickness. When my mom was sick, you had no problem stepping back and letting me do everything. Now all of a sudden that it involves money and there's a benefit in it for you, you not only want to help, you want to control everything. And I was not letting that happen because everybody knows in my family that that is the exact opposite of what my mom wanted. Guess what, guys? My mom didn't just talk to you guys about it. She talked to her friends. She talked to her other siblings. She talked to her cousins. My husband and I went out to dinner, okay? This was like a couple months after my mom passed away. We go to this restaurant over here, this burger place, okay? And we're in there, and all of a sudden this guy that worked in the warehouse with my mom comes out, and he knew the whole story. He flat out asked me if my mom ever got my brother off the executor of her will. I was like, she told you? It's just crazy. My mom told a lot of people. I don't know why. She just did. Well, I do know why. She was distressed. This situation with me and my brother not speaking to one another consumed her. Absolutely consumed her entire existence, okay? I had to deal with that. I had to deal with the effects of my mom crying all the time, being depressed, being upset, coming to my house on holidays and moping around and looking sad and complaining about him and talking about him. And then on top of that, you start manipulating a human being when they're in one of the most vulnerable positions, actually the most vulnerable position that a human being could ever be in. So anyway, you know, I just couldn't understand what made him feel like he was more entitled than I was to have the will. Why do I have to hand it over to you? But my husband and I started doing our homework online, and from what we understood, we had to have an actual original copy of my mom's will with her signature in pen. That's what you file with the court. So what my mom had in her safe was just a copy. We finally realized that because, like, if you looked at her signature, you could actually see that it's not written in pen. So that's what we thought. My brother was telling people that I destroyed the original copy. I told my husband, I'm like, do not answer him, okay? I want to do a little homework. There was no rush to do this shit. And I found this out, obviously, through my lawyer, how to hire an attorney. And my attorney told me that normal people wait like a month, at least a month. That's like the minimum. You have time to do this. You could call up a companies and notify companies, which I was going to do, and tell them that your mom, you know, my mom passed away. It's not like it had to be done that day, dude. It didn't have to be done 3 days later. It's like, let's mourn, let's grieve a little bit, and then we could do this. I told you guys this in the last video, but like in my head, it was like, let's just get through Christmas and the holidays, and then we'll worry about this shit. You know, it's very hard to get things accomplished at that time of year, no matter what it is. Chances are nothing's gonna happen until the new year anyway. Well, anyway, my brother then, I think it was the next day, calls my husband up. I was sleeping, and him and Satan call my husband up in the morning. Now, I've told you guys this before. They call my husband, and this is very sick and goes to show how calculating they are. And they will use excuse because Liana's crazy. Liana blows up. She's confrontational. No, it's just because I ask questions. You can't lie to me, and you know that. And so you avoid talking to me, not because I'm crazy, but because you're a liar. That's why. So anyway, my husband wakes me up, whatever time it was, like 10 o'clock in the morning. My mom wasn't even gone a full week yet, and he's already like talking about filing wills and all this crazy shit. Like, could we just like chill out? Could we put the brakes on this? Are you even emotional? Are you grieving? Does this hurt you in any way? Like, I don't know. I mean, is it just me? I don't know. I would love to hear from other people, please, in the comments below. Can I fucking relax? I was not home for an entire month. I didn't even get a chance to sit down and really process what I went through and what my mom went through. Holy shit. My husband wakes me up, okay? Saturday morning. He's like, you know, I just got off the phone with Steven and Satan. She does the talking. She has my brother call my husband, but then like she grabs the phone all the time and does the talking. So my brother starts telling my husband, he's asking my husband if my husband has the original copy of the will. And my husband's like, no, we thought you had it. And he's like, well, no. My brother's like, well, that's gonna take too long anyway, and I'm just gonna go file for administration, and it'll be a much quicker process, and blah 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 blah. And so my husband actually wakes me up, and he was almost like on board with this shit, like almost convinced, almost, not fully, but almost. And I'm like, Chris, I don't trust these people, okay? And I haven't trusted them now for a long time. I don't trust anything they say. I'm not going to call him back. I'm not going to talk to him until I talk to an attorney first. So that day, I decide I'm going to get in touch with my mom's neighbor who lives directly across the street, Jeannie. Jeannie is one of my saving graces, girl. Jeannie helped my mom. I just can never repay these people enough, okay, for what they did for not just me, but my mom too. So I had talked to my mom's next door neighbor, and she told me that my neighbor across the street worked for a lawyer. I didn't know what type of law he specialized in. Lawyer is just an umbrella term. Really, you could be a real estate attorney, you could be a divorce attorney, you could be a criminal attorney. So I didn't know what kind of attorney he was, but I figured I would call her up and ask if he could recommend somebody for me who does wills and estates and that kind of thing. I was like, you know, does the guy you work for, could he recommend a lawyer? She's like, he does wills and estates. I'm like, oh, get out of here. What's the chances? So I was like, well, can I come in? She's like, absolutely. She said, call me Monday and I'll make an appointment for you. So I was like, all right. So that weekend, I went back on Thanksgiving. I cleaned up a little bit, but the one thing I didn't do was I didn't throw away any of the food that was left over in the fridge, okay? So I went back to my mom's house that weekend. I wanted to just get rid of the food and clean everything out. My mom actually, a couple of years prior to that, had mice. My mom was like deathly afraid of mice, and I had to pick a dead mouse up once. Oh my God. I felt so bad for her. It was just another thing that this poor woman had to go through. Ugh, I don't even want to think about it. So I didn't want to leave any food in there, open food or anything like that. And I knew it would start going bad. And so, I was like, let me go back over there and throw this food out. So also, when I went over there, I wanted to grab her address book. I wanted to do the thank you cards for my mom's wake, okay? So there was people who sent flowers and didn't sign the guest book, or people who sent flowers because they couldn't make it. And so I needed their addresses. I go to get my mom's address book and it's gone. It's just one of the many ways that my brother and Satan tried to sabotage me. And I also wanted to get some numbers so I could call up some of her accounts and notify them that she passed away. I go into her office and where my mom kept her bills, okay? Every piece of paper in my mom's house that had an account number, a bill, gone. Now, Kara would tell me when my brother was at the house. So he took all the bills out of my mom's house. My mom had a bin in her den that she kept all her bills in. That was gone. Then I went to go look at this other bin that I knew that she kept her bills in. That was gone. Now I have no access to anything. They went in there to keep me in the dark, okay? So I'm like, all right, now what do I do? And then I realized that my brother took my mom's address book. And again, purely just to with me. I mean, there's no other reason. They didn't need it. I told you I was writing the thank you cards out. And so I never even ended up, and I feel so bad about it. I really do. I never ended up writing out thank you cards because I got so aggravated with the whole situation. You guys will hear. I gotta be honest with you guys. What I've told you so far, what they've done, it just got 10 times worse because now they don't even have to worry about my mom's feelings anymore. So it was no hold barred. Plus, they have the other delusional idiots supporting their delusions. I was just pissed off, right? I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday. I go and I sit down and I meet this attorney, okay? My husband came with me. I tell the attorney that my brother, he's threatening to go file this administration. We don't know if he did it. We don't know if he's going to do it, but we wanted to see what could be done. Like, we told him that my mom has a will and she has a copy. Now, my husband told my brother this. He was like, well, why don't we at least try to file the copy? And my brother's like, oh, no, it's going to take too long and blah, 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 blah. This will be quicker.